Alright, so what we're going to do here is use some JavaScript to create HTML elements. And we're going to use loops to do that because there's a lot of table cells here full of pretty colors, and doing that manually by hand would be irritating to say the least, and very time consuming. And inflexible as well. If we suddenly wanted to change the way these colors were laid out or add more or subtract, that would be a lot of work. But with using loops, we can get this all done in a very, very little amount of code. In fact, your code is going to look very similar to what's happening here in this example. Now what this example does is it uses 3 for loops. There's your first one, there's your second one, there's your third one. This third one happens in its entirety. Everything in it, to about there, is going to happen for however many times we tell it to before this will repeat once. This one here is designed to repeat 4 times. This is based on width, so I'll come back to that. So let's say width was 10, for instance. This is designed to repeat then 10 times. This is designed to repeat 4 times. So on the first time through, we get 10 and, oh, you know what? Sorry. X started out as 0, and then X is less than or equal to 4. This one's actually designed to repeat 5 times. Okay, so again, let's say this is 10. So this is going to repeat 10 times, and then this is going to repeat once. This is going to repeat 10 times. This is going to repeat twice. This is going to repeat 10 times, so on and so forth. So in the end, after these two are completely done, you will end up with 50 repetitions. And then this is going to repeat 6 times. So you will end up with 6 groups of 50 repetitions. Do the math. 6, 50, that's 300 different repetitions. Now, how do we take this and apply it to this? Let's do some quick changing of this code. So I'm going to take this code. Actually, I think I'm just going to take the script and copy that. I'm also going to take the center tags. Center tags are deprecated. They really shouldn't be in this example anymore. You know what? And because of that, I'm not going to take them. Change my mind. Taking the script. Going to drop it over here and save it. And I'm going to look to see what's in my script. And it appears I've got some document writes, and that's about it. So document writes can happen in a paragraph. So what I'm going to do is modify this so that the whole thing lives inside of a div that is then centered. So let's see, this is happening inside, inside, outside. Where's the very first document write? I guess there really isn't one. Oh, okay. Let's create one. Document.write and div style equals how do we center something again? Oh yeah, text align. That was a trick. You guys were supposed to jump in there and answer the question before I got to it. Center, and add my semicolon, close my div, and add my semicolon here. And then there's going to be another document write, so I might as well just copy that part. And it's going to be, actually, you know what? I'm going to move where this is. I want this to happen outside of the loops. I only want one big div to hang on to everything. So if that's the case, I'll put this ending document write outside of the last loop. Okay, looks like it's going to work. That's not happy with the amount of indents. Or is it not happy with something else? What do we got here? I see there was an error. It just doesn't stick around long enough. So we're going to save it. And we're going to come over here where I've already got this page up and going. And I'm just going to refresh. And yep, we got an error. Looking at it, looking at it. Don't see it. So what did I mess up? Going to right click. We're going to inspect. We're going to go to this error, syntax error, unexpected. I forgot my quotes. Wow. Unexpected less than symbol, which would be right there. Document write. How about we wrap this with some single quotes, since there's some double quotes inside of it. How did I not see that? Okay, refresh. Still nothing. Uh-oh, I broke it. Back to the inspect. Now what? Line 29. Did I do it twice? Oh my god. Save. Refresh. Okay, there we go. That should not have taken that long. Anywho, so looking at this code, looking at this tree, let's see how these three loops right here, line 12, line 13, line 14, are all interacting together. I'm going to start just by changing a number here in this very first loop and see what happens. So in this loop, I is 0. As long as it's less than or equal to 5, we're going to do what we need to do. So what if I set that to 15? And I save it and refresh. Oh, well, okay, this tree just got a lot taller. And it got a lot taller and a lot wider. Okay, interesting. Put that back to 5. Save, refresh. Let's go back to what it looked like. What happens if I change this second loop? It was x is less than or equal to 4. Let's go 10. And save that and refresh. Again, we get a lot taller. If I set this back to 4, tell the difference between them? Not really. Just a different size tree. How about this last one? The last one is y being equal to 1, and as long as y is less than or equal to width, do its thing. If we look up here, width was set to 1. What if we set width to 10? And refresh. Ooh, okay. That's a significant change, and you can very quickly see what's happening at the top. At the top, we are now peaking at 10 across instead of 1 across. So apparently what's happening here is y is being used to establish how wide each branch is. So let's set that back to 1. Save it, refresh. Okay, let's just quickly test that theory. Couldn't hurt, right? 2, save. The top of this tree should now be 2. Yep, alright, cool. And let's put that back and refresh again. Alright, what else can we play with that's happening here in this internal loop? Well, in here we've got a variable that's being set. In fact, we've got 2 variables that are being set. And then an if statement based on one of those variables. In fact, 2 if statements based on one of those variables. So let's go see how those are being used. First, we got a variable called number. And number is randomly generated and then multiplied by 10. So if you use math.random, if you recall, you get a number between 0 and 1. Between 0 and 1 means you're going to get a decimal. You're going to get 0.1. You're going to get 0.3. You're going to get 0.75, something like that. You're going to take that number and you're going to multiply it by 10. When you do that, you're moving the decimal point over. So the 0.1 becomes a 1, the 0.3 becomes a 3, the 0.75 becomes a 7.5, so on and so forth. Now we're going to create another variable. We're going to name it ornament, and we're going to whoa, I did not mean to drag that in. All right, and we're going to round it off. So remember, number could have been something like 7.5. Math.round will have turned that into an 8. If ornament, which is right here, rounded off, if ornament is less than or equal to 1, boom, document write an O. If it's greater than or equal to 2, document write an X. So that's why we're seeing X's and O's. And every time I refresh, because it's based on random, those X's and O's are going to change place. So let's keep an eye on like this first block here. Refresh. Hey, we got a new O. Refresh. Oh, we got lots of O's. Refresh. None of them. Refresh. Oh, there's a couple on the edge there. Okay, so that's how that's working. We could simplify this tree just to make it easier to play with so that there's less code here by knocking out a whole bunch of this, keeping one document write, getting rid of anything else that has to do with an if. Let's see, if I click here. Where does it think that is? Okay, so that's highlighting there and there, so that's our for loop. Alright, so I'm going to put an extra space between the for loops. And this guy here, I'm even going to indent more. That's going to help to differentiate. Let's shove that one way over. That's our innermost loop. This down to that curly brace is our second loop. We'll shove that one over some more too. And this is all of our first loop. And then this line here and this line here, remember, are completely outside of the loop. Okay, so our loops are right there. After this first loop has ended, but still inside this second one, we have these other commands. So this loop will start, it'll do all of this, and then it will do one of these. What's happening is that's a line break being placed after we have placed all of our, in this case, X's. In fact, what I'm going to do is run this again now that I've removed some stuff. All the O's are gone. There's not a chance that we're going to get an O anymore, because the only thing we're document writing are X's and line breaks. So I'm going to refresh. Everything is made of X's. If I were to get rid of the line breaks, just comment that out for a second. What do you think is going to happen? This tree should do this. What tree? Okay, the line breaks are what made it look like we had individual branches. So let's put that back. Save, refresh, bring back the tree. Okay, I'm going to shrink this tree up so it's a little bit easier to see what's happening as we change some of these other numbers, because they were things we're hiding. And we haven't even talked about this width equals width minus 2 yet. We'll get to that. So what I'm going to do is, since we know this is all about the peak of the top of the tree, I'm not going to bother with that. We're going to leave that just the way it is. I'm going to come to this first for loop, and I'm going to set that to a 1. And I'm going to set this one to a 1. And we're going to save. We're just going to run this once. Okay. We've got a couple of repetitions here. A group of 3 and a group of 3. Let's try to figure out why. This for loop, responsible for writing nothing. This for loop, responsible for writing the BRs. So we know this for loop is running at least a few times because we've got some line breaks. In fact, if I view source, will it show the line breaks? It will not in this browser. So, sorry, can't even see the line breaks. This loop here is running a lot of times because we got 6 X's up there, so we know I had to run 6 times. Let's figure out how it did that. Because y is set to 1, and if y is less than or equal to width, y plus plus, do your thing. Well, width was 1 right up here. So was it less than or equal to 1 the first time? Yes, it wrote the x. It became 2. So was it less than or equal to 1 the second time? No. So that's why we only got this 1x the first time around. This loop is done. It's then going to write a line break, and then this is where we get some of the repetition happening and why it happens. Because remember, width is set up here. Width was 1, and this was based on the number that was assigned to width to determine whether or not it was going to repeat. Well, width just got bigger. Remember, the other way you could write this, this could have simply been width plus plus. And that would do the same thing. So width just grew. So now it's officially 2. This loop can now repeat because it's going to repeat at least once because it has to repeat once. It was based on x being 0 and then x going to 1. So at 0 we got 1 line break, and at the second time around it's going to be equal to 1, so it's never going to repeat again. We're done. We're going to come over here, y is 1, so we're going to write, oh no, I didn't mean to drag that around. Gotta stop doing that. So we're going to write 1 single x. Remember, width is 2, so it's going to check again, is 1 less than 2? Yes, so we're going to write another x. So that's this line here happening. And now we're going to add 1. We're going to come back through, y is 3. Is it less than the 2 we had set for the width here and here? No, it is not, so we're done. We're going to create another line break. So we've just finished this line. There's a line break. We're down here. Now, that's interesting because we're going to come back to 1. Why? Now we're coming down here. After these two loops are complete, this loop finally does its first thing, which is take the value of width and subtract 2 from it. So width used to be 2. We're going to set it back to 0. And then we are going to run this loop. Now we're only going to run it once because I is 0. Is it less than 1? Yes. And then we're going to add to it. So the next time it comes through, it'll be equal to 1, and we're done. Did I say we were only going to run it once? Sorry, we're going to run it twice. It's going to loop through. Yeah, it's going to do its thing twice because of one loop. Anyway. So this is now going to do all of this stuff that we just did again. Hence, you have the double row. Okay, big deal. Great. We can make trees. How do we actually take this and create a color chart? Well, there's a reason I put this color chart into a table. Tables are made of very repetitive elements. Each one of these boxes is a TD. Each one of these rows is a TR. And then that's a table. Oh, that's a table. Oh, look, that's a table. So what I've done is I've built a bunch of different tables, and each table is made up of TRs and TDs. If we take this and start playing with it, I'm going to modify a little bit because I don't want a Christmas tree shaped table. So all of this document.write, BR, and width and stuff is going to have to get modified. I can leave the div there. That's not going to hurt anything. And I'm going to start by putting a basic shell of a table outside of any of these for loops. And I'm going to have to do it in a document write. Here's why. Because once you start a script that does a document write, it basically at that document write command creates a whole new page. So if I were to put my table out here, that would be a problem because that table would disappear the second I did the first document write. So these document writes wouldn't be able to modify a table I created here. That just wouldn't work. So my table has to exist here. So I'm going to document write, and this time I'm not going to forget my quotes. And I'm going to stick with these single quotes because I like to use doubles inside my HTML. Document write the table tag. I'm going to give it a few basic attributes like width equals, I don't know, 500. That was not an equal sign. How did that happen? 500 and border equals 1. That way we can see it. And close that document write. Then what goes into a table? Well, TR tags, of course. So I'm just going to copy that, paste it there. Let's change this up. Make that a TR. Now finally, we were writing X's. X's aren't very useful. Let's put a TD tag in there. And let's have Komodo autocomplete that in a way that is really not useful. TD tags don't live by themselves, so we kind of need a start and a stop. And if you have a TD tag that has nothing in it, well, you can't really see it. So let's at least put something in there. Stop. Think about this. We got a table. It's got one row. We got 3 loops that aren't really doing anything. This loop is currently writing a line break, so let's kill that. This loop is the only one actually doing something. It's creating TDs. And it's creating them based on a width, which is established up here. How about we simplify this? Dump that width. I just put a real number in here. Let's put a 5. Sounds good. Okay, saving that, and I'm going to run it. What do you think I'm going to see when I refresh this page? How about some X's? But this time, inside TDs. Okay, not bad, but we hard-coded a table and we hard-coded a TR. What if we move that TR so it was inside the loop? What's going to happen now? Oh, hey, suddenly we have multiple rows. Okay, what if we move this table, document.write, so that it was inside this for loop? What's going to happen now? Hard to see. I thought that might jump out a little bit more, but there's a break right between those. Let me add a little bit more styling here. Style equals, let's say, do I want margins all the way around? Nah. Margin bottom. Let's separate those by 20 pixels. That'll make it a little bit easier to see. Okay. Now if we go ahead and change this up, we could have as many tables as we want. Change that to a 10. Lots of tables. They could have as many rows as we wanted them to. How about we change these to 5? See where I'm going with this? Getting the tables should be pretty darn easy. Changing the content. That's going to be something else entirely. So once you get your table set up, then we'll have to start significantly modifying this loop, and then we'll come back and significantly modify this loop so that we can actually get our colors in there. By the way, this table code is incomplete. The browser is just being really generous, and I'm taking advantage of that because do you see any ending table tag? Do you see any ending TR tags? Nope. I didn't put them in. I let the browser try to figure out where they should go, and I just went with it because I'd like to have you figure out where they go. Clearly, you couldn't start and stop a TR right here because then these TDs wouldn't exist inside of it. So where does it go? Same idea for the table. You can't start and stop a table in the same place because then none of this stuff would be inside the table. So as you work to figure that out, keep in mind that you're going to make mistakes. You're going to break this. You're going to lose your table. It's going to fall back into just one table, or all these X's are going to be in a row, or your borders are going to disappear, something. Don't worry about it. It's a simple mistake. You got one line in the wrong place. Just move the lines around until you find the right place. For now, I'm going to skip that and I'm going to move on to colors, because there's a pattern in the colors too, and the pattern is something we're going to take advantage of here, and that is straight zeros except the last 2 digits change every time we go across. Every time we create a new TD, the last 2 digits change. When we drop down a row, the middle 2 change, and they change every time we drop down a row. In addition to that middle changing, once you've established that middle, the middle is maintained as the last 2 digits change. So 00, 20, 40, 60, 00, 20, 40, 60. Okay, so we can start to see a pattern here. All the way down through, we've got the last 2 and the middle 2 changing as we go all the way down to this corner. Those first 2 stayed 00 the whole time. They don't change until you get to the next table. Then they become 20, then they become 40, then 6, then 8, then A0, C0, so on and so forth. Okay, so if we specifically targeted them where they change, we'll have some control over that and easy access to them. So if this loop here was responsible for keeping track of the last 2 digits that change in every single row, it could write just those 2. This one could work on controlling the middle two. So it can be responsible for keeping track of but not writing them. Okay, you can't write any content in a TR. The only thing you can write in a TR is a TD. So all the content has to be generated here. This would just be keeping track of what we're trying to write there. And finally, this loop here, responsible for creating your individual tables, could keep track of which table we're on, 00, 20, 40, 60, and so on. And all of this information is going to have to get passed down to this loop where it finally puts it all together. Experiment with that. Get back to me. Let me see what your best attempt is at making this color chart. All right, I look forward to seeing some code from both of you.